Hello Indie fans, welcome to another stacked week of new releases, where if games were pancakes, this stack would be 28 pancakes high, including a number of gorgeous but maybe not so indie titles. But first, let's begin with Gorgon Shield, the latest game from developer Whiskey Barrel Studios, best known for the Swords and Sandals series, and interestingly, is a vertical roguelite RPG. What this means is that you are ascending a tower on a shield with 4 party members facing off against enemies on all 4 sides, but you are able to rotate the shield, which is where the strategy comes in with a well-received demo and looks neat. As a fan of giant mechs, I've been looking forward to Arc Seed for quite a while, since of course it has gorgeous pixel art in which you are battling interstellar archangels in indestructible cities, so very Evangelion-like for sure. It also has deck building in terms of attacks and abilities that you draw, and looks like it's for fans of the genre. This video is brought to you by Puropu Defense Squad, a co-op tower defense action game in which you are defending your extractor against waves of wacky humans. You are constructing different types of traps and turrets, but also getting into the thick of the action by attacking and using items and special abilities to take out your enemies. There is a demo available on Steam which has hours of content, including 3 playable characters, each with their own unique specialities, such as a sentient TNT box, 3 maps, 4 different modes, and 8 different types of enemies, even having online co-op support for up to 4 players. The full game will include both a solo and co-op campaign, a PvP mode, and near infinite replayability, with the zany universe that they have created, leading to interesting possibilities for the character, enemy, and level design. So if interested, play the demo on PC or on the Steam Deck and wishlist the game. Here's an interesting cozy game which seems to have been in development for quite a while, in which the Garden Path self-describes as a slice of life sim about the joy of gardening. It looks like an adventure exploration game about growing your garden and talking to NPCs, but it is not as structured as a farming sim like Stardew Valley. You will be able to do activities like fishing, but they also talk about vegetable friends, which seems weird. It is designed for short 10 to 30 minute play sessions containing dailies to complete, so it might be similar to something like Cozy Grove with an interesting art style as well. Developer Hobo Cat Games makes interesting games such as the Souls-like title Hobo Cat Adventures, and they are back this week with Motordoom, a 3D platformer action roguelite with a sports twist, in which you are pulling off sick tricks on your vehicle of choice while blasting away at demons and getting upgrades. Yes, this is essentially Tony Hawk meets Devil Daggers and has a throwback art style and looks to be a cool, weird thing. Here's another fun-looking title with a twist, since at its core, Space for Sale looks like a base builder title to me, only you are not some omniscient being creating buildings out of thin air, but are represented by a player avatar on screen. You are constructing dream homes on alien planets in accordance to the demands of your clients, having to deal with the local flora and fauna as you do so. So it is one part action-adventure game and one part building and crafting game, with a nice look as well. This comes to us from Swedish developer Mirage Game Studio, best known for Little Big Workshop, which I quite enjoyed, so I'm looking forward to their next title for sure. Other games begin with Cats on Duty, a match 3 tower defense title that mashes up 2 genres that I love, that might as well be called Cats vs Zombies. You are placing down various cats which fire at the enemy, furiously matching tiles on the left hand side of the screen to get the resources that you need to recruit more cats. All of this plays out in real time, so there is a frantic energy to the game, so let's see if they manage to find that balance between too much to do and nothing to do but wait for sunlight to be generated. A new release that might tug at your heartstrings is Closer the Distance, set after a fatal car crash that causes the death of the main character, but she finds herself as a ghost watching over her loved ones as they grieve over her death. Like the Garden Path mentioned earlier, this also self-describes as a slice of life sim, although I would have to disagree in this case since it looks much more like a narrative adventure game in which choices matter, as you are using your abilities to influence the townspeople, which will ultimately affect the fate of the town. There's something to games about grief and death that can be difficult to play through, especially if you are or have had a similar experience, but maybe experiences like this can help you as well, and goes to show the power of video games. Like Artisan TD mentioned last week, Dawnmaker has the potential to be a big hit, being a turn-based base building game with deck building elements, in which you are drawing buildings and cards and deciding where to place them on the hexagonal grid. Games of this nature can be deeply strategic, think .H for example, so it depends on how well put together the systems are, with the grander goal of bringing back life to a dead world, and is the hidden gem of the week.
I am not a king, I am not a god, I am Deathless.
Yes, Deathless is yet another Vampire Survivors inspired bullet heaven roguelite, in which you are blasting away at hordes of enemies, which can be very satisfying, with the twist being a co-op focus that encourages you to play with friends. This game did preview well during events like the Steam Nix Festival, and while there have been other similar games that also try to emphasize the co-op part, the success of this will depend on what systems are in place and if they are worth the hassle to gather a few friends to play together. A little bit of a niche one here is Dreadweight, a horror visual novel in which our characters are trapped in a crumbling mansion and have to outlast a witch hunting them down, with this being the direct sequel to Cooking Companions from 2021, although no prior knowledge is required. Here's a game which is just straight up Mario in Kitsune Tails, a 2D platformer starring cat girls, and does look very similar to its inspiration. However, given that Nintendo isn't making 2D Mario games like this anymore, maybe this will be able to find its footing, as indie games always do when they fill a gap in the market.
Cleared for takeoff. Runway 09er.
A neat-looking, minimalist real-time management sim is Mini Airways, in which you are an air traffic controller and have to direct all these different planes on where to go, with the prevention of crashes being the most important part. However, do note that this is not from the same developer as Mini Metro and Mini Motorways, so the naming convention is kind of suspect, but the minimalist look has its charm and could be interesting. There have been quite a number of productivity tools on Steam which gamify the experience in an attempt to make you more productive, the latest of which is On Track, which simulates being in a train car as you watch the scenery roll by. It looks absolutely gorgeous, although I don't know about you, but reading a book or working on a laptop on a moving vehicle other than a plane tends to give me headaches, so maybe this is not the one for me, but it will be completely free, so you might want to give this a try. Here's a blast from the past in Sift's Cartels 4, a stickman action title from another era, since games like this were very popular on Flash Games sites back in the day, with this being a re-release as a Steam version, which I hope has all the touch-ups to make it work on modern PCs. Still, it is sleek and stylish, so if you've never played a stickman action game before, do give this a look, with there being another collection for Cartels 1 to 3 available on Steam, so you might want to give that a try as well. Here's a neat looking action-adventure automation game named Starground, which has the potential to be a hit given the popularity of games like Forager, in which it combines the base building automation hook of games like Factorial with a dungeon crawling action component and also has co-op support. The main bulk of the game appears to be the factory building portion, in which you are mining and processing resources, first by hand, but eventually getting up to gigantic automated setups with conveyor belts. You can leave the factory to dive into dungeons or go to other planets to explore, fight enemies and kill bosses for more loot, to then be crafted into more powerful equipment, so that's a fairly tried and tested gameplay loop. It is supposed to be built from the ground up as a co-op experience, as compared to the failed attempt at adding multiplayer to Forager, but the main guy there threw the rest of the team under the bus on that one and became persona non grata, so maybe this game will have different luck. This game looks like it might be the next viral hit, but then comes the twist that will make you smack your forehead, since Stretcher Men is a comedic physics title in which two men have to carry a sick patient on a stretcher to the nearest clinic in medieval times, but must take care not to drop said patient. Sounds simple enough, right? Then, you realize that this is single player only and is not a co-op game, so you won't be getting the same kind of virality as Chained Together, so it looks like a missed opportunity, but then again, I might just end up having to eat my words if this goes on to become the biggest thing on Twitch for this week. This next release kind of hurts my heart, since Sword of Convallaria is a pixel art tactical RPG that sure has Final Fantasy Tactics vibes and looks good, in which powerful heroes take on an army of generic goons, but the enemy should have their own hero character equivalents as well, and thus have gorgeous anime cutscenes, so what's the problem? Well, it is also on mobile and is free to play, where, you guessed it, it's a gacha game of all things, so you are spending currency to pull characters like in Genshin Impact. It sucks because I love pixel art and tactics titles and this looks awesome, but the monetization system turns me off, so much so that I was considering not putting it in this video at all, but it might be of interest to you. Just a quick one here in the Jackbox Megapicker. Not so much a game, but more of a utility that aggregates all the games from all of the Jackbox Party Packs that you own, and there are many since they're up to Jackbox Party Pack 10, and with 5 games each means a total of 50, where this Mega Picker simply makes it easier to jump into the ones that you love, so break it out for your next party.
The Mega Picker.
Here's a cleverly named game in Time is Honey, an idle game that has you playing as a beekeeper, raising bees and collecting their honey. There are special, unique bees which you can get from packs, with the main goal of collecting them all and looks adorable, with the Steam page indicating that there are no in-app purchases, so hopefully this is a one and done self-contained purchase. The developer of Towerful Defense, a rogue TD, did reach out, being a minimalist roguelite defense title that is technically tower defense, but just not quite in the way that you expect. This should have Vampire Survivors inspiration since you are swarmed by enemies on all sides, but you're controlling a single tower which cannot move, so that eliminates one part of the action. This has been done before in games like Heretic's Fog, which has been well received, although removing the movement parts of the game just limits the quote-unquote gameplay to clicking buttons and watching your weapons obliterate the enemy, which can be fun but might get repetitive over time. Here's a beautiful looking precision platformer named Unrooted, in which you play as a sapling that unroots itself to move upwards, and yes, it sure seems to have influence from rage games like Jump King or Getting Over It, since the higher up you go, the greater the risk. It looks alright, so I guess it will depend on how it controls, but another one of interest to fans of this subgenre. The year is 2024 and somehow we are getting the sequel to World of Goo, a puzzle game from 2008 which absolutely exploded in popularity, although I'm not optimistic about their chances this time around. For one, it kind of looks like the same thing, and in the 16 years since the original release, the puzzle game space has moved on, and it will also be an Epic Games Store exclusive, at least on PC. But who knows, maybe the nostalgia is strong enough to give this a good showing. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. Here's a gorgeous pixel art adventure game named Minds Beneath Us, a sci-fi entry set in, perhaps, the near future, in which society has become fully automated with AI and human brains are directly linked to the internet. Horrifyingly, our protagonist is a man with a data ghost in his head which controls his body, against the backdrop of a dystopian, almost cyberpunk kind of society. There is of course a mysterious conspiracy afoot of monstrous consequences, but for the most part, this plays like an adventure game about searching for clues in the environment as well as dialogue choices, and has a beautiful visual style. I've had my eye on Infest for quite a while, since the shorthand for this is Noita plus Slay the Spire, being a roguelite deck builder in which every pixel is simulated on screen. Interestingly, rather than being a straight up deck builder RPG, it kind of feels like one of those physics-based action titles like Worms or Gunbound, since you have to manually aim your cards and abilities, with the subsequent pixel simulations occurring on the right hand side of the screen. So you can ignite flammable gas and use it to cause massive damage on nearby enemies, for example, although depending on how random the physics are, it might not be appealing to deck building fans. This next game simply looks like fun in a very literal way, since the self-styled comedy slapformer Thank Goodness You're Here is set in a bizarre northern English town filled with weird characters who task you, a travelling salesman, with a series of increasingly absurd tasks. Now, I don't think that there will be a secret twist that changes it into a horror game or anything, but rather it is more of a walk on the weird side of funny situations that our hero finds himself in, with a combination of adventure game walk-around segments along with platforming, looking vibrantly animated and visually colourful, with the developer of Untitled Goose Game publishing this, so if you trust their taste in games, this is one to check out. Okay, I'll be honest here and come right out to say it, I was a little concerned about putting Deviator where it is, since visually, it looks like the copy my homework version of Hollow Knight, and indeed, the developers are big fans of that game, but even I have to admit that the art style is bordering on plagiarism at this point. This is a Metroidvania, with the twist being that combat is focused around deflection and parrying, so maybe this will be more similar to Nine Souls in terms of feel. The developer does talk about successive reflections required to enter a powerful enhanced state, so it is all about learning attack patterns and getting that timing down. This will be an early access release, which is planned for about 1 year, although no details are given with regards to expected playtime, number of areas or bosses, so it's a little bit of an enigma that we will have to figure out.
Storm's coming.
Alright, you got me here. This next title is from a technically independent studio which I would not consider to be indie, since they have raised millions of dollars of VC funding as well as through Kickstarter, and comprises of ex-Blizzard developers, but hey, Stormgate could be the next big real-time strategy game that looks like StarCraft, since you have Terran, Protoss, and demons, who are a swarm-type faction that relies on quantity to overwhelm their opponents. So yeah, essentially the Zerg, with this being free to play but not pay to win, looking to have a model similar to StarCraft 2, so no harm checking this out, with this release kicking off an arms race in the RTS, which is interesting to see in 2024. Watch this video for more upcoming RTS games.